Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about Impact Wrestling from February the 10th, 2020. And today, this is a really good episode of Impact. You know, I have to give Impact credit for this. They really nailed some stuff here. And while I didn't really enjoy any of the matches too much, I did enjoy a lot of the promo segments. And I thought they really delivered. In fact, I think one of them over-delivered. This show really made me very interested in No Surrender. Usually, Impact shows are kind of, I'm kind of obligated to watch it. It's the third biggest brand in the United States. I kind of have to watch Impact along with AEW and WWE. But I'm legitimately interested in what they do at No Surrender now because of the way they built this show and the implications that it had for No Surrender. Very interested in this. So let's get into it. Josh Alexander is going to have the promo night of his life. He's going to have so much good stuff here. We start with Impact Wrestling. So he's on Team Impact at No Surrender. And he says the only thing more important than the Impact World title is Impact itself. And that Impact gave him a chance, and so he's glad to stand by Team Impact. But then he has a problem, because Scott D'Amore agreed to let him participate for Team Impact. Because he says, well, how could I be composed enough to represent Impact on Team Impact, but not be composed enough to exert my rematch clause for my world title match? Now, he's going back to the storyline of Scott D'Amore saying that he cannot wrestle for the world title until he gets his emotions under control. So he says, okay, I will team up on Team Impact because I respect Impact. Impact gave me an opportunity, gave me a chance. But after that, I want my world title match. And there is nothing that is going to get in my way. I will get my title match. Then Vidcon, who is, I don't remember which guy in the Ascension because he's been gone so long. I think it's Victor. But Vidcon, who is a massive dude, and I really didn't realize how big he was until, he showed up here. He's a massive dude. He interrupts. He didn't have to say anything. He just kind of stands toe-to-toe with Josh Alexander, and Josh Alexander flies off the handle. He says, I know what you're here for. You're one of these many distractions that's been coming out here trying to take me. As soon as I mention the world title, somebody attacks me. Somebody comes after me. That's what you want. And he immediately calls for a referee. Immediately. The referee comes down there. They have a really short match where Josh Alexander defeats Vidcon by submission. It's essentially a squash match. After that, Josh Alexander maintains hold of the ankle lock, won't let it go as Vidcon continues to tap out. Security and various Impact officials come out there. They're trying to separate Jake off of Vidcon, and he starts shoving them. So he shoves two officials who are in black shirts, and then Scott D'Amore is in the ring. He shoves him down too. And now everybody, myself included, is like, uh-oh. All right, Josh is screwed up. He just shoves Scott D'Amore. So Scott D'Amore, composes himself, fixes his tie. It's just something suspicious about Scott D'Amore. I'm just going to plant that seed right there. So Scott D'Amore gets on the microphone and talks about wanting to walk down memory lane. And how about he found and helped train Josh Alexander. He helped Josh Alexander, watched him on the indies, helped him meet his wife. He got married and knew when he signed him, he was signing a future world champion. And then, he finally made good on it. And Josh Alexander is a future world champion. And, he says, okay, you've done all of this stuff in your career. I mean, what more could you want? And then Josh Alexander says, I want you to either be my coach or get out of my way. And it says that he doesn't want his legacy to be a champion who never actually got to wear the belt. And that every time he closes his eyes, he sees Moose attacking him while his family was in the ring. He keeps reliving that moment and says that he wants to be the flag bearer for Impact. He wants to take Impact to the next level. He wants to make his son proud. And he said he's tired of hearing about the process. As Scott D'Amore is talking about, you got to trust the process. He's like, no more process. I'm tired of this process. And he says, if you don't give me my rematch, well, you may be looking at the newest, hottest free agent in wrestling. And Scott D'Amore says, okay, look, you're completely out of control. All right, now you're completely out of control. I'm taking you off of the No Surrender team. I'm sending you home. And all of this happened so fast. Like, it all devolved so fast. For starters, Josh Alexander's passion here. I can feel that he believed everything that he said, especially in the second part. In the second part, when he's talking about wanting Scott D'Amore to get the hell out of his way, that he wanted his legacy to be one of being the guy, the flag bearer for Impact, wanting to make his son proud, all that stuff. It was real. You could tell it was very real, and that he meant every fucking word of it. That's what made this so good. This was the promo I didn't know Josh Alexander could even do. You know, because he didn't talk that much when Ethan Page was there, and he really didn't talk that much after Ethan Page left. This is probably the most talking Josh Alexander has done ever, and he seemed to finally found his voice. And Scott D'Amore, in removing Josh Alexander from Team Impact, of course, diminishes Team Impact's likelihood of victory. And by these magical guys who keep showing up to get in Josh Alexander's way, and then Scott D'Amore meeting him almost immediately afterwards, tells me that Scott D'Amore is behind all this. And that maybe Scott D'Amore is actively working against Impact. That's my conspiracy theory. And again, I'm not even done telling the story that they was telling throughout the evening, because this is just the part where they send Josh Alexander home. And of course, afterwards, he says, I am home. This is my home. He gets sent home anyway. But something tells me that Scott D'Amore is actively trying to do something to either Josh Alexander and Impact. That he's actively up to no good. Why else would he be, these guys keep popping up out of nowhere. Jonah, Suzuki, Vidcon, all these dudes are just coming out of nowhere. Charlie Haas, all these dudes just popping up whenever Josh Alexander tries to get back in the title picture. So there has to be somebody behind all this. Maybe these guys are mercenaries. Somebody has to be behind it. Who could it be? And my thing is, the best guess would be Scott D'Amore. Who else has the, kind of authority to let these guys just come? And they all have interest music, So, like, it's one thing if they were clad in black and attacked them from the crowd or something like that. But these guys all have interest music. They all walk down the ramp. It's like, it's all very official looking. So it comes across as if it's somebody in management. And then the one guy in management who doesn't seem to want Josh Alexander to become the world champion is Scott D'Amore. And now, knowing that Scott D'Amore is actively hurting the Team Impact by taking Josh Alexander off the team, something tells me that he's probably some way involved with either Moose or this Honor No More thing. And it's probably going to be he's been undermining Impact the whole time. And I don't know why, because he's been with Impact forever. And so maybe I'm wrong. And maybe that's the point, is I'm supposed to think suspiciously of Scott D'Amore. But maybe it's just Scott D'Amore being suspicious, period. But that was a great opening segment. I even overlook the jobbing out of a giant dude, mainly because, it was his first night. Josh Alexander is a world champion. He was pissed off. And I didn't care for the Ascension anyway, so I don't care. So after this, we continue the story with a different chapter. This is Steve Maclin. Steve Maclin volunteered to join Team Impact. And Scott D'Amore says, look, I don't know about that. Steve Maclin tells him, look, these guys, these Honor No More guys, they jumped me last week. And I want revenge. I want these guys. You guys have got to put me on this team. Scott D'Amore says, look, I'm going to let the guys pick their own replacement. They're going to pick somebody. And Steve Macklin was like, I guess. So that's kind of where we kind of leave it. Now, who's going to be Josh Alexander's replacement? It's, the big story going throughout the night. So Scott D'Amore runs into Team Impact, which is Eddie Edwards, Rhino, Rich Swann, and Chris Sabin. And they're all kind of not really doing a good job of arguing. They're just saying, "What's going on, Scott? What are we supposed to do, Scott? What are we supposed to do?" They're awful, by the way. The whole group of them, they're all awful. And Scott D'Amore's like, "Look, pick somebody. Either you guys pick or I'm going to pick." Which, he could have picked in the first place if that was going to be the thing. So they didn't really have an idea of who they wanted, but then they came up with, "Hey, all right, how about Jonathan Gresham? Jonathan Gresham is against Honor No More. He's an upstanding dude. How about he teams with us?" Scott D'Amore was like, "Did you guys talk to him about that?" And they said, "Well, look, we have a match tonight with Honor No More guys. After that match, we'll ask him then, or we'll ask him before that." I forgot how it went. But in any event, they said, "Okay, look, we'll talk to him about it." Scott D'Amore said, "Well, look, if he's interested, then you guys can go for it. I accept it. If he agrees." That's the hook. Jonathan Gresham has to agree. Later in the show, Jonathan Gresham is laid out in the hallway. And I was like, what the fuck? That was a great hook. Because you thinking, okay, Gresham's going to I was thinking, okay, maybe Gresham's going to join the team and then flip on him at No Surrender. And then I was like, okay. And then I saw Gresham laid out, and I was like, he's not even going to make the team. They can't ask him if he's going to the hospital or something. So, okay. Now we got some layers here. We got a little bit more layer. All right. We can't even use Gresham now. So the match is the OGK versus Rhino and Rich Swann makeshift tag team. I, of course, was disgusted by this, considering my deep guttural dislike of both Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Rich Swann and Rhino. I didn't like anybody in this match. Both teams can fly into the sun for all I care. The OGK won the match. They're not billed as the OGK. They were billed as just Mike Taven and Matt Bennett. But of course they call themselves the OGK everywhere. So why wouldn't they call themselves the OGK here? Anyway, Kerry Silken was upset outside the ring as Matt Taven yelled at him, said that he's not his boss anymore and that he needs to get lost. He even left the ring to try to put his hands on Kerry Silken. This led Steve Macklin to run down the ring to help Kerry Silken fight off these guys. After Rhino and Rich Swann lost, the introduction of Steve Macklin re-energized the team, and they was able to fight back Honor No More, bump these guys, and knock them all over the place. And so, Team Impact wins the post-match brawl, even though they lost the match. Backstage, Ian Riccaboni thanks Steve Macklin for helping Kerry Silken and says that Honor No More had it coming. Eddie Edwards said that he doesn't see Impact Wrestling in Steve Macklin, and that Steve Macklin was a guy from somewhere else. And Macklin says, look, I get that, but where I come from, we don't have to see eye to eye to stand shoulder to shoulder. And Ian Riccaboni, who is just there being a nice guy, says that, look, if my word means anything, I'm going to vouch for Steve Macklin. I'm going to vouch for him. I'm going to throw my name in there as a guy who thinks you guys should pick him up to fight off against guys that I worked with for 10 years. So, Team Impact reluctantly accepted Steve Macklin on the team. This is a great story. This is an excellent story because we don't know what happened to Jonathan Gresham. And we do know that Steve Macklin and Jonathan Gresham had problems, right? We know that they had an issue over that Ring of Honor world title where Steve Macklin challenged for it under pure rules and he lost. And then he wrestled him last week and, in a regular Impact rules match But then the Honor No More guys jumped in and caused the big issue. So now we're led to believe that perhaps Honor No More jumped Jonathan Gresham, and that's why he won't make the team. But it's also that loose thread that it could have been Steve Macklin, who is also a loose cannon. And that's where we kind of get a bit of inconsistency in the story. Because Josh Alexander was removed for the team because he was a loose cannon, he's out of control, he's a nut. But he's not nearly as nutty as Steve Macklin. Steve Macklin kidnapped Trey Miguel and Punisher style tied him up in the back somewhere. He's a fucking lunatic, right? There's nothing Josh Alexander has done that is crazier than shit that Steve Macklin has done. So Scott D'Amore, again, being very suspicious and allowing Steve Macklin, who is a fucking lunatic, to be on the team, but not letting mildly irritated Josh Alexander to be on the team. you know, because Josh Alexander is too upset. He's not composed enough. And yet Steve Macklin was throwing a hissy fit just 2 weeks ago because he lost a match. And he was throwing shit. Like he was throwing tables and stuff. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I love this story, though. Because there's so much intrigue. There's so many question marks. And I really want to see how this is going to play out at No Surrender. So this is a great chapter in that book. I think they did a really good job here. I love this. The second big promo segment of the evening featured the Bullet Club. And Jay White was playing MC as he talks about being an Impact, again. And then he turned the mic over to Tongaloa, who basically said that we're going to be the next tag team champions. Cut a pretty good promo on the Good Brothers, how they're going to kick their asses and everything. Then Jay White got the microphone back and said that there could be only one Bullet Club and that Eric Young and the Good Brothers, they're Bullet Club fans. They're such Bullet Club fans that they kind of started trying to create their own little Bullet Club. Eric Young came out there and said that Violent by Design is a real family and they're not clinging to something that was cool 10 years ago. They're not clinging to things that they didn't create and that they don't cling to the past. And that the ring that they stand in, everything around them doesn't belong to the Bullet Club. This isn't about the Bullet Club. Everything belongs to them. And Jay White was like, oh, you say all of this belongs to you. And it says that, well, the Bullet Club has been on top of the business everywhere for 10 years. No matter what letters, no matter where we go, we're always on top. And he says that this bothers you and that you want to have your own little Bullet Club. That's why you came up with Violent by Design, but you're not the King Switch. You're not the Switchblade. You're not the leader of the Bullet Club. I am. And that's why Violent by Design can never be the Bullet Club, because you're not me. And he kind of goes down his resume for all the people who didn't know who he was. Made it, sold out Madison Square Garden, main event of Wrestle Kingdom, world champion, everything. And then said that, how about this? We have a 6-man, we have a 6-man tag, Violent by Design versus the Bullet Club. Eric Young agrees to the segment, but wanted it for next week. And Jay White says, no, how about right now? And of course, being the heels, Eric Young is not thrilled about doing things right now. But before they really even get a chance to even agree to do it right now or next week or whatever, the Good Brothers come out there. And this is quite possibly, and I'm saying something that is blasphemy against my own self in this point, in this situation. The Good Brothers cut a good promo. And I actually liked the Good Brothers promo here. Carl Anderson says, now that the Bullet Club is here, he can get his thank you in person, because he's one of the founders of the Bullet Club. And then Doc Gallows says, how hard is it to thank us for all of these nice things that you guys have, for your nice cars, your nice homes, everything that you guys have gained as being members of the Bullet Club. How hard is it to thank us for it, for laying the foundation? And said the only thank you they really get is from Haku, who sends them a thank you text every year or something like that. He said they've been everywhere. They won tag team championships in every promotion that they've ever worked in. And all the letters that matter, the Good Brothers have been tag team champions. and that they conquered New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that's why they left. And Tama Tonga, who was not very good in his promo, but I still feel like he meant what he said. So he says that you guys, the Good Sisters, want to thank you. And it says that you guys want to thank you. Okay, we want to thank you for leaving New Japan. he says that you guys have been trying to take credit for the success of the Bullet Club. And essentially everywhere that they've gone, they've tried to recreate the Bullet Club. He talked about the kind of failed knockoffs in WWE, the OC and the club and all this kind of stuff. It says that nobody remembers all of these failed attempts. But Quebec kind of like the Bullet Club is forever. And it says you guys have said you conquered everywhere, you've been everywhere. He said you've been fired from everywhere. Which got the crowd to laugh. Because we know the Good Brothers, they've been canned a lot. Then he says you can't leave Bullet Club. But after we win the Impact Tag Team Championships, we will be firing your asses from the Bullet Club. And I was like, okay, this actually put a lot of heat on this. I like this. Now, granted, GOD weren't the best promo. There was still a level of believability to it, and there was some humor to it. So I really enjoyed it, because there's a lot of truth there. The Good Brothers were the foundation of the Bullet Club. They were the guys when Bullet Club were cool. They were the top tag team when they were cool. Even though I prefer GOD. I prefer the bigger, more physical guys, or the more physical guys. Neither one of them is big as Doc Gallows, but they're more physical. And I think they're more badass, GOD. But a lot of what the Bullet Club became is because of Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows. So there's a lot of believability there. And I was like, okay, I was kind of in. Now, I am tired of Bullet Club shit. And to have Bullet Club shit in Impact and AEW is way too much Bullet Club shit. Right? I'm hoping, I'm praying, even though I know it's all in vain, that after No Surrender, we move away from the Bullet Club invasion of Impact. But I know it. We can't. Look, we got all the good members of Bullet Club in Impact. All right? We got GOD and we got Jay White. There's all the good members of Bullet Club currently. All of those dweebs like the Young Bucks and Adam Cole, all those guys. And that Jay White is now in AEW too, yes. But the dweeb version of Bullet Club that features all the anime fans and all that shit, like Kenny Omega. All of those guys are in AEW. Those guys are the second level of Bullet Club. After Styles left, and after Balor left, it was Styles. After Styles left, it was, I think it was, then they started bringing in Jeff Jarrett and shit, So, like, those guys, Kenny Omega and all of them. That's kind of when Bullet Club jumped the shark, And I admit, Kenny Omega did he maintained what Balor and Styles was able to do for a little while. But he introduced more, that Bullet Club being far more geeky than it ever been before. It was now full of more geeks than ever. And they were being bigger geeks than ever. Cody was in it and shit, So, at that point, I was kind of like, all right, I'm done. So here, I know it's not over, but I'm telling you, man, there's just too much Bullet Club shit going on in wrestling right now. And I'll give these guys credit for really making me care about the No Surrender Tag Team Championship match. But I can't, that's as far as it's going to go, as far as I'm concerned. After that match, I really want to move away from all this Bullet Club stuff. I would love it if we could just fire the Good Brothers into the sun. I really would be happy for that. So I won't have to deal with them for a while. Even though I think they were the better part of the promo here. I'm just tired of them. They suck. And GOD aren't the best promo, but I want to watch them beat guys up. So that's fun, at least. The Good Brothers don't have fun matches. They're just dorks. And GOD might not be the best promo guys, but they'll knuckle you the fuck up. And sometimes that's more important. All right. So hopefully, after Eric Young does the job to Jay White, and after God beats the Good Brothers can just get took out, and we don't have to deal with them anymore. But I know that's not going to be the case. We're going to be dealing with this shit forever. So those were the two best segments on the show. Was the storyline involving Honor No More and Scott D'Amore and Josh Alexander, and they merged those things perfectly. It was excellent. The Bullet Club stuff was good. Again, it's kind of wearing on me with the whole Bullet Club shit, but it was a great serviceable storyline. The rest of the show was kind of and there was, just a lot of stuff happening. Still some stuff worth talking about though. Deonna Purrazzo defended the Ring of Honor World title against Santana Garrett in an open challenge. She defeated her. Chelsea Green won over Mickie James by disqualification because Tasha Steelz was talking ish on commentary. And as it looked like Chelsea Green was going to beat Mickie James, Tasha still started throwing trash cans in the ring, and then started throwing other kind of crap in the ring. And then Savannah Evans took a cheap shot on Chelsea Green, and Mickie James lost by disqualification. Then of course they fled the scene to escape, and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking the tag team match is finally upcoming. It's finally coming now. That Gujar dude showed up. He ran down what he did, and how he's a kickboxer and a boxer, and he did some other stuff. Computer programmer. I don't know. Who cares? The Inspiration were with Caleb. They apparently bought him a new phone with a new camera, and they offered up to do a photo shoot. And of course, Caleb was being all coy, like, "Oh no, I can't possibly take pictures of you guys." And they were, posing for him and everything. And he just kind of, okay, all right, I'll take a couple of pictures. He took some pictures, got caught by Madison Rayne. She made him delete the pictures. And then, he claimed that the Inspiration were trying to seduce him. And it was all weird. It was all very weird. They just, doing placeholder stuff until Tenille shows back up. That's all. Matt Cardona called himself a world champion, a digital media world champion, and said that he got screwed out of his world title match, and that Impact didn't offer him a rematch. They also didn't call to make sure Chelsea was okay. So something had to change. And because of that, he saw this title, this digital media championship, and said, I created the digital media championship. I created this whole thing. I created an entire industry. If it wasn't for me, wrestlers wouldn't be making so much money off of Twitch and YouTube and playing video games and podcasting and all the things that they do now. They wouldn't be doing it without me. And that I earned this because of all of the great stuff I did 10 years ago. I'm the true digital media champion. Then he says, I've been in the ring with everybody, all of the best, all of the greatest. I've been in the ring with Ric Flair. And Jordynne Grace is the toughest opponent I've ever had. So I hope she comes back, and I hope she brings her A game, because apparently they're going to have a rematch at No Surrender. Not thrilled about that. Also not thrilled about, I get it that Matt Cardona is, has always been the internet guy. That's his claim to fame, is that he kind of popularized internet wrestling on the internet in terms of the engagement that you can get being a personality on the internet through social media and stuff like that. Yes, I get that. But still being a digital media champion, that's a bottom feeding belt. It is a bottom feeding nothing title. It literally means nothing. This belt means shit. Whatever. And then Gizelle Shaw has debuted, but he debuted on BTI before the Impact. Gizelle Shaw is apparently another Nyla Rose, which was pretty obvious. I had never heard Gizelle Shaw talk before. I had seen clips on the Progress shows when I watched Cara Noir matches on the network. I never really watched the entire show. So I've seen clips of this Gizelle Shaw. Never really paid that much attention to it, but the moment Gizelle Shaw opened Gizelle Shaw's mouth, I was like, wait a minute. Something about this is not right. And I was correct when I looked it up. Gizelle Shaw is another Nyla Rose, if you know what I mean. And the main event of the show was Brian Myers defeated by Morrissey. It was Brian Myers in the learning tree. So it was like 40 dudes against Morrissey. And Morrissey destroyed them all. Powerbombed Brian Myers onto some thumbtacks to win the match. And Morrissey continues to look like Edge after he takes the Mario shroom. Womp, womp, womp. And there it is. You know, he's Giant Edge. And why Vince McMahon hasn't called to get him back yet, I have no idea. But Morrissey is now more ready than ever to defeat Moose to become the world champion. He was attacked by Moose after the match, too, to continue their heat. So Moose is not really involved with the hottest angle on the show, but he's still involved with something pretty good. And Morrissey is looking like the guy who might actually take the belt. You know, not so sure he will, but he's looking like it. And so this makes this show very interesting, is that pretty much everything has some level of interest to it. But the Honor No More stuff is really driving this ship. And I'm really enjoying that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.